It's your boy Shah, Toronto to the A. I just pulled up a chair, TheseUrbanTimes.
Welcome back. Terrell Thomas, TheseUrbanTimes. Sitting down with a gentleman today, came down from the 6, Toronto. He's in the A, making a lot of noise for himself. Something different, you know, like a lot of times we sit down with artists and they're like, damn, is this cat from the hood, this cat from here, this cat from there? We sitting down with a brother who has a different perspective, Indian artist. So we're gonna get a lot of dialect and kind of understand further his upbringing, what life is like in Toronto, and what brought him to the A. Shah, how you feel today, good sir?
Here, blessed. Happy to be with you, dog.
Happy to be with you as well, man. I had an opportunity, you know, we're meeting through some dope people. Shout out to my man Scream, DJ Scream, for those of y'all who know him. You're making a lot of waves in music. You're making a lot of waves in the world of trap music and such. And I know, you know, from experience, when people think of Toronto nowadays, they think of Drake. And it's just all, you know, like bars, butterflies, and, you know, like Canada is so peaceful and such. But that's not how it goes down. That's not what life is really like. Very cultural in Toronto. You'll find a very diverse culture of West Indian folks, black, white. But it's also pretty gutter up there. Again, like us in America, we're very ignorant to the fact of thinking Canada is just all bells and whistles and such. Talk to me about your upbringing in the 6.
So I grew up in Parkdale, and when I grew up, it was, I guess, sort of like, as far as Toronto goes, it was, you know, it was sort of like a hood part of the city. It's being totally gentrified, which, like, you know, that hurts me. But Parkdale, PK, is where I'm from, and yeah, there is a different side to Toronto that, like, you don't think of. And overall, like Canada in general, it is a lot, you know, like friendlier and safer and all that, like soft shit that you associate. It is there. Like Canada's got healthcare, you know. Like Canada's, like, it's just a different place. Like, you know, it ain't starting wars the same way as, you know, shit is out here. And the streets, even when it exists, it's like, it's just not to the same point out here. I guess because, like, you know, just there just ain't as much gunfire. Like, you know, so the baseline is, it's not like, it ain't like New Orleans, or it ain't like Chicago, or, you know, Baltimore, but there are hoods in Toronto, and especially when you're like 14, 15, 16, like a lot of these boys just quick to fire, you know? So that part is something that you don't really see. The Toronto rap scene, like, that's all overlapped. So that's not like the Toronto rap scene, meaning like the shit that you don't really hear about out, like, anywhere outside of Toronto. But if you go to like some, say, maybe like one of these Reddit groups or some shit like that, right? Where it's like hardcore Toronto hip hop fans, where they're talking about the gossip, talking about the drama. That shit really does overlap. The streets in Toronto really does overlap. Now, that shit doesn't necessarily go anywhere, like anywhere positive, but it definitely exists.
No, I'm glad. You know, we won't throw any names and shit out there, but we've even seen and heard recently, like, gangs in Toronto, when folks coming into Toronto and not checking in, it might be a price to pay. And so, is that something you've already been familiar with? Like, that's not something new. Like, you've seen it and heard of those lifestyles happening before?
That is a little bit new. Like someone like coming in and having to check in, that's definitely something that someone in Toronto was like, yo, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Let me fucking take that shit. So that's definitely a modern, recent development. Like, especially like checking in. That's a very kind of like, you know, that's some shit that is communicated through rap. And that's some shit that's not, you know, like a part of Toronto's, like, you know, culture. So it is new, but people being real proud of Toronto has existed. I remember hearing the story that, like, you know, old heads would tell me of Biggie on his come up was there with Puffy, and it was like not a big, so this was like before he, you know, before they, I guess, really took off.
Okay.
And they're doing some show, and then the story goes that, so Biggie's there in Toronto. He's like, yo, where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? And then a bunch of Toronto mans just rushed the stage, chasing the fuck out of it. Like, yo, this is Toronto, dog. And so you know, and that's a story that like I'm proud of. You know, that's a story that Toronto people are like, okay, you know, like even if it makes us look bad, we don't like. So there is definitely a pride that we have, but yeah, it can be cold. It can be a cold place, dog.
And you're making waves in the world of trap music. Now, traditionally, you think of trap music, you think of Atlanta automatically, and it's like I don't want to say a negative perspective that comes over trap music, but you think of some harsh shit. It might be drugs, it might be guns, it might be murder and such. And originally, as you let me know, you are from Toronto, but your parents are from India, and so life is completely different over in Asia and in certain parts of the Middle East than it is here in America. So I mean, you're no stranger to war. You're no stranger to gangs, as we talk about like the Taliban. You know, a world you know known gang and such. Is there any correlation to that, to like knowing that history and then jumping into the field of trap music?
Yo, that's fire. I never thought about that before. I think that seeing shit that's like on another level of like devastation, right? And even just knowing this shit exists, it definitely makes situations like relatable, and it allows me to get into any situation and know that like I know who I am. I know that with my drive and my hustle, I know that if I put into work, I'll get to where I'm trying to get to. So like short-term danger is not gonna affect me, and yeah, maybe like, and maybe the way that like my life experiences contribute to that. I never thought about that shit before, but yeah, like it probably did.
Have you faced any, I want to say, for lack of a better term, I'll say hardship? Because once again, like, people think of hip hop and they automatically just, I'll say, think of black rappers, you know, like African American rappers and whatnot. It was even hard for some time for white rappers to really be acknowledged for their skills and their talent. You're a brown rapper, Indian originally. So have you reached any, like, I'll say, challenges from your peers when you do hit the stage or when you get the studio? They're like, yo, this cat don't know what he's talking about. When again, like, shit, respectfully, where you're from might be tougher than some of the toughest hoods in America and such.
Again, that's something that I don't think about kind of intentionally, meaning the way that I operate is that I try not to focus on negative. I try to just focus on positive. Sometimes the shit is unavoidable, right? So that's not something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about. In terms of peers, I would say no. I'm very like privileged in that people in general have met me, and I feel like I haven't had to have like suffer any consequences for being an outsider, right? And I've kind of been an outsider my whole life. That's kind of like a theme of my life, because like I didn't grow up around any brown people. So I've always kind of been disconnected from my own culture, right? But then obviously fitting into any other culture, I'm not from there, but I've always sort of been embraced. I mean, like even me finding rap was kind of like, all right, well, this is the culture of outsiders just owning their own shit.
That's well said.
Right? And then when I got to Atlanta, I mean, like you say trap music, and like I don't think anyone's ever actually pointed out in an interview. It's like, yo, why are people talking about you in trap music, right? And I'm sure that the reason is that one, it was Atlanta that got me going, and then it was like strip clubs and Swampizzo and like street DJs. So it was like the trap world that like, it was the world that has only blown up trap artists that got me going. So that's why, and the sound, Atlanta's gonna influence you and all that shit. But nah, I ain't in the streets, so it's a very like good question. Like, so why are you talking about, like, why are you known as a trap artist? And I think that's why. But nah, going back, I don't think I've suffered consequences from like artists who look at me different for being brown. I think that, I guess, where there is an area where, again, I haven't like, you know, I haven't spent time on this, and maybe this is like strategically something where it is worth it, but the people who are really gonna rock with you and really gonna like, you know, kickstart your wave at the beginning, it's most likely gonna be people who are like you, right? So now I've been very blessed in that, like, I was embraced by like strip clubs and the streets of Atlanta that we don't have anything in common, right? And it was just that, I mean, Atlanta's real used to seeing artists who have skill and who have talent and see them pop. So Atlanta's just quick to support, right? So, and I benefited from that greatly. But I think that where like the gap is, okay, so now beyond the streets of Atlanta, beyond like dope boys in the strip club, beyond people who were hearing the record in the strip club basically, right? Now, like, that is where you kind of need, or the way that it often happens is that it's people who are like the artist that can relate to him and all that. And that might be an area where, because like I don't have the Brown experiences, right? So I can't really honestly talk about the Brown experience, which is needed because their Brown voices are like not represented.
Respect.
So I try to play that role, but it's not one that's like extremely relatable, you know? Like there's like, the Brown experience is like, in America, is like, okay, people calling you a terrorist, like getting no bitches, your parents, you know, like pressure on, your like pressure, right? So these are things that like, you know, like I deal with like, you know, bullshit at the airport, but in real life, no one's coming at me like in the same, like I don't have those same experiences that the typical Brown person does. So that's an area where like, okay, maybe there's something where like, you know, it's been harder.
Okay. You mentioned Swampizzo a minute ago and whatnot, and that's a brother I got a lot of love for. Shout out to Swampizzo.
Big love, my dog.
How did you guys connect? How did that relationship form?
Yo, all right, so you mentioned Scream and now you mentioned Swamp, and that's my dog. Sean Teasy, Bodega Teasy, that's my boy. That's like, sometimes I think about my life and it's like, yo, I really have not had any like inside help, right? Everything I had to do was sort of been in as an outsider, but Teasy's one, like that's Atlanta, who's just like been there for me, just a real one. So
he's a dope cat.
that's it, like, you know, and so Swamp was someone who was like, I don't understand this guy. Like, this is a brown guy from a different country. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like, I was not an artist that Swamp was used to, right?
Okay.
So Teasy definitely played a role there and be like, dog, trust me, fuck with Shah. And then, so Teasy's the one that made that happen. And then, you know, that definitely like, that was the thing that got me started, you know?
You also found a lot of success at South by Southwest recently. Now, for those who don't know, South by Southwest is a great festival, of course, music, culture, tech, and such, where artists are born, artists are found and discovered. What was your experience like at South by Southwest, and what made you actually even go out there to amplify your career?
To be honest, maybe I should have planned a better answer for this one, but to be honest, like what made me go out there was it was just kind of like part of the artist come up, right? It's like, all right, well, you got to do South by. It's like, you know, you win a Grammy, you know, you hit millions, you do like, you know, like South by is one of those things you do up front, right? So that's why I did South by. And then I guess just understanding the significance, and then the way I like that it's like it's like several days. There's this early part where I have an advantage because it's like there's film and I got some film shit going on, and it's like there's tech and people like open up doors to me in the tech world. So I can go there early and like, you know, catch a little something from that first week, and then when the music week begins. So basically that, like, all that means that I'm gonna be there for some days. So now I gotta make it worthwhile. But it took but like the way I did South by, it just took a lot. It was like a big like investment of time, and like it paid, you know, like a lot of good came from it. But I don't know if, like, especially moving forward now, I don't know, like, if it's worth it. Like, 'cause like, I mean, this shit's a rat race. That shit is a fucking rat race. So now it's like, you gotta really come correct if you wanna, like, win a rat race. So I don't know if that's something that I would advise others to do. So like, it takes a lot.
No, but as you mentioned, like it is a rat race. But if you can find success there,
Right.
you end up, headed in the direction in which you're going into.
Right. Yep.
So the music pretty much speaks for itself, and that's also very dope because, and I'll be honest, I was surprised. I said, okay, like, I was very excited and eager after hearing the music and whatnot to like actually sit down and meet with you.
Fire.
So Bollywood, you found a lot of success in that project. And there may be a lot of people who are ignorant to, again, what actually happens in the Middle East and like the film industry and how like Bollywood came about. So talk to me about the concept behind it and then just the success in which you found in your music as well.
So that was the one thing I would say in my career that's happened by like accident. The one big success where, and it's so far it's been one song where I took like this Bollywood hit one day late night. I'm with my producer, and it's just like, and so again, I'm kind of disconnected from the brown world, right? Bollywood is a core part of probably 93% of brown people's lives, including the ones born here. Bollywood movies is probably a core part of their life, like whether they're straight up brown, whether they're whitewashed brown, whether they're like into rap music like me. I feel like they all love Bollywood, right? Me, like regular musicals, like American Broadway musicals, to me is the most painful shit on the fucking earth, right? It just makes me hate like humanity, right?
Oh, so we're not gonna catch you in any Broadway shows.
Oh
and
my
shit
god,
like that.
oh my god. But so now like Bollywood is basically, it's all fucking musicals, right? Like they're singing and dancing and all this shit. So now there is the family element, and like where I'm not gonna be as mad at it, but this shit is not for me, right? So I don't know any of that shit, but there's one song that I remember. So it has that like, sentimental, emotional part in my brain where it's like, oh yeah, I can remember my mom watching that on TV, and like my mom and my sister, like, so there's one song I've always had. It's like a mega hit, right? It's like, say like some like Beatles level type, right? Like mega song, or like, like Marvin Gaye type, like everyone knows this joint. So I took it and just totally like, switched it up. It's like a love song, and fucked around, put it out there, and the shit just went. Like shit just like put it on Facebook, and the shit just went in India. It didn't go on like the regular platforms, but on Facebook, it went to India. It may have been my first thing that hit 1 million. But part of the reason was there was haters. So there was a lot of people that was like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? How could he do this?
A lot of brown.
Oh yeah, this is only Indian, like only people
okay.
in India. And like none of these comments was in English. So I didn't understand.
Oh, shit.
But, so I would ask people, I'm like, yo, what are they saying? And then they wouldn't want to tell me, thinking that, it would like ruin the moment. But I'm like, nah, dog, like this is something we've been missing. Like I don't have haters. And you again, like, especially at the beginning of your career, it's good to have haters, because then your supporters got some noise to make, versus when everyone just thinks that you got it and there's no negativity, then there's no real reason to be loud with your positivity. So this was the first time that I had like haters that I saw, and I'm like, this shit is fucking great.
I respect that.
This shit is fucking great. So that's a story there, but it's like, but that was one where, it was just like, okay, good fortune, like it's just coming,
If this is my first time hearing you, I'm checking out this interview and I'm like, damn, I want to know more about this cat. I want to know more about his sound. Outside of that record, give us a record and also why that you feel like best describe you, not only as an artist, but as a person.
A similar experience to that one was Telemundo, which was my first viral. So like this was my probably biggest viral moment, the Bollywood joint, right?
Okay.
Tujhe Dekha is the name when I saw you. The first viral moment I had was Telemundo, and that was shout out my Dominicanos. Like so, the first place I lived outside of Toronto was the Heights, Washington Heights in New York, right? So Harlem, but it's like a different, it's like straight up Dominican. So my New York experience was very Dominican. My engineer producer Eddie is Dominican. He was like from down the street. So like a lot of people say that I'm more Dominican than Indian, even though I got nothing like blood-wise to do with Dominican. But my heart is definitely like, shit, was he born here? And I can't really speak Spanish, but I know like some gutter Dominican slang. So I put that on the record, and then there was this clip of these Dominicans in the studio hearing me spit, and they look at me as some like Atlanta rapper, and they're like, yo, how does he know these words? So they lose control. And then this video of them wilding out went viral, and then that just led to this Dominican wave. So I'd say that kind of represents me, because it's like, again, it's like I'm always been an outsider, but the upside is I'm embraced by people who got nothing to do with me and who've got no reason to embrace me. So that's a real, it represents me and my story real well.
Okay. I'll say this though, even just hearing you say that, when you say they have no reason to embrace you, I know it's like a common saying or old saying when they say like real recognize real. Like you can respect and honor genuine feelings or genuine vibes and shit. So I can already tell that's why people are fucking with you and what you got going on, because you're giving off that. Now we're here in Atlanta though. We're here in Atlanta, and it's dope to see how diverse you are, coming from so many different perspectives and such. How has Atlanta so far though like impacted your sound and affected you as a man and everything in what you're creating?
As a sound-wise, that one's easy. It's undeniable. It's just like, it just gave me melody. Before that, I was just straight bars, straight rapping, which is cool. But you hear Thug and you hear Future and Migos, Lucci, Derez Deshawn, and you're like, yo, this shit ain't soft. This shit is fucking hard. This shit is fucking fire, right? And it's like, and then you get into the booth, and it's like, oh shit, I can do this, right? Like you got the cheat code, so that one's easy. Like the sound-wise, that one's easy. And then, and what was the second part?
Yeah, how has it impacted you as a man and what you're creating and such?
So the part of Atlanta that like the rest of the world doesn't realize, right? Or I guess maybe you could say there's two reasons why Atlanta produces so much like such prolific success, such prolific stardom, right?
That's it.
And one, which is kind of like the second reason, is that now there have been so many success stories, whereas in almost every other city on earth, oh, you're trying to be a rapper? It's like no one's giving you any sort of love, right? But in Atlanta, if you've got talent and you're putting in the work, it's very easy for someone to believe in you because they've seen 15, 17 other rappers blow up before their eyes. So they'll show you that love, that support, where in any other city, it's the opposite. Like you're gonna feel like shit for trying to be a rapper, right? But in Atlanta, as long as you got it, like it's gonna feel good, it's gonna feel encouraging. And then that is a totally different experience, right? So that's one thing Atlanta does for you. The other reason that people don't know is that the street money here is like, it's long. The street money here is long, and you can spend your money the right way to keep the problems away, which that doesn't exist in definitely doesn't exist in New York or Toronto, right? That might exist in India, Okay, let me just keep the problems away, right? And as long as there ain't bodies piling up, as long as you ain't as long as there ain't bodies piling up, you can keep that shit going forever. So now you got a lot of artists that can just keep that shit going, and now they got the bread to spend. And now they can go to the strip club and throw $10,000, $30,000, get their attention in a place that matters, and now you've got your wave started, right? So that's the part that the rest of the world don't know about. And I don't know how much that strip club part of it still exists in Atlanta. The street money is still here though. So just learning that, like what that did for me is that the dough doesn't, there is dough in Toronto, but like financial money, right? Like it's like investments, right? The street money in Toronto is like, you know, nothing like here. So that makes just coming up, it just basically, you're tight with your dough. For me, coming to Atlanta and seeing that, yo, dough is unlimited. Like there's just, you know, there's always unlimited dough to get. It just changed my mentality, like, yo, just spend dough, just do business. And in Toronto, I feel like when you pay someone, there's kind of like, when you pay someone kind of like for a service, there's kind of like this feeling like you got one on me, right? It's like, it doesn't feel good. Whereas here, it's like, nah, you're just building. And as long as they do their part of it, now you're building a relationship.
That's some shit.
Right? That's just what it is. So that was a big switch for me. And then like, and yeah, that was a big, that as a rapper, like it needs to happen. So like, meaning like there's going to be expenses along the way. And you gotta be like, you know, you can't feel some type of way about that being what it is. So that's one thing that really Atlanta helped me with.
What are you working on currently? Music-wise, some of your own your personal endeavors and such. What are you working on currently?
So the endeavor, the big, I guess, endeavor, maybe not like, so music is always there. Like music, like, you know, as a rapper, you gotta be doing that. But for me, the big part that I'm like, you know, transforming is like consistency, but specifically in terms of like showing face, right? Like in rap, you kind of gotta be like, I really hate, or I gotta change my mentality around this now, but like self-promotion to me is just fucking lame shit, right?
I respect the fuck out of that though.
I fucking like,
That says a lot about you.
But that's what it is. Like, you want to be a rapper, then that's what you got to do. Like, and now, so the game there is finding your way of doing it, right? But it's just like salesmen and like self promo. That shit to me is just so lame. It just like, you know, it turns me off. Like, I don't like being around those type of people, right? I like when those people are working for me and working hard, right?
Okay.
But like, so, but that's something you just got to get over. What do you mean you're a rapper who like hates self-promotion? Everything has got to be around you. That's what makes us stars, is that we have a world that gravitates around us. So now, you know, you gotta show them something, right? Like, people who really know what's up will be content just with their faith in you. But like, you constantly, like, for growth, for attention spans, you constantly just have to be shining. So that's just one thing where I realized, okay, like, beyond the music being timeless, I've just got to put way more out there and then be out there a lot more. So that's what I'm working on.
Man, I know I was telling you, just sharing with you how much I love sports. And Toronto is a big sports city. Canada's a big sports country. Of course, recently the Raptors winning the finals, well, not too long ago and such. No football team as of yet, but you know, I can see that in the near future. Talk to me about the sports culture in Toronto, the Raptors. Of course, you got the dope ass Maple Leafs jersey, and we even see the Blue Jays trying to come around and do some things. So what was the sports culture like for you growing up out there?
So I was definitely ahead. Like, I was definitely spent, like, you know, especially like childhood, like obsessed, you know?
Okay.
But it's a very sad history. It's a very sad experience. I think y'all forget because we got that one chip, right? But that was the first win in, like, I don't know, 30 years.
Since '93. See, I'm from Philly originally, so I still remember Joe Carter hitting Mitch Williams and the Blue Jays winning the World Series in '93. That was a traumatic and sad experience. So I remember that from Toronto.
Sure. Okay. And so that was one win, and now 30 years later, across all sports, across all the sports, it took 30 years. So it's a heartbreaking, and it's a heartbreaking like experience where it's to the point where you just almost know that there's going to be failure, right? So the Raptors in that 1 year, and I think even when we were up 3-1, there was still this feeling of like, damn, we're gonna fuck this up. But then when Clay got injured, and then when Durant got injured, and then in that game 5, then it's like, yo, the whole team can guard Curry, like we can win this. And then it was like, yo, we're gonna win this. And then it was like, yo, and then that's why you saw 2 million wilding out in that parade, because it was like, yo, 30 years of misery, just, and like I know, like it's in some ways it's like Atlanta, but nah, Atlanta be winning though with the baseball team, right? So, and it's not like Atlanta, because in Atlanta it's like, all right, teams be losing, but people don't care. But in Toronto, they're losing, and people like have their emotions so heavily invested in them, especially the hockey team.
Okay.
So, because the basketball team is like newer, it ain't like one of these 100-year-old teams, right? So, like I think the Raptors is newer than the World Series, than the Joe Carter. Mm-hmm. So it hasn't like, so the Raptors losing for so long didn't have the same heartbreak, because it's like, well, it's a new team, whatever, right? Like, okay, it's going to take us a minute, and then then like they got all right. So, but outside of that one moment, it's like a pretty heartbreaking. Being a Toronto sports fan, it's a heartbreaking experience. It's like, yeah, it's miserable.
Do you think Toronto would be a good city for an NFL team to be in?
I fucking hope not, dog.
Really?
Hope
really?
Not. Yeah, we don't need another fucking loser. We do not need some more fucking losing ass shit. And NFL, that's the hardest one to win.
Yep, facts.
Y'all
Facts,
won that one. Y'all got that one. The whole country was with you on that one. Nah, I hope we don't fucking get I hope no, and I don't think the drive is there, because it's like in many ways, Canadians and Americans, it's like the same, right? But there's some shit like that's a bit different, right? Like there's some things that's a bit like, say, guns, right? Like that's just regular shit out here, and out there it's like, for most people, it's the opposite of regular shit, right? So, and in general, like you could say like the fanaticism, right? Like same with religion, right? Out here there's like religious fanatics, right? And out there it's kind of like, yo, why these people sound like they're from like the year 1400, right? So now with sports, it's kind of similar shit. And with NFL, that's fanatics, right? Like you're drinking at 10 a.m., you're tailgating, whatever. And I don't think that shit will cross over. So I think the experience is just going to be mad lame.
Well said. Okay, damn, that's a hell of a perspective right there.
No, I hope we don't get a team. Plus, when I was a kid, I was working with the Saints. So I got my team already.
Okay.
So
shit, Saints fan in Atlanta right now. Woo. That's a whole
not right now.
Okay,
period.
Okay.
No. Like a Saints fan.
I'm saying living though here right now. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh no, that's one thing where that's the one thing where Atlanta people, like Atlanta, will be like, what the fuck you talking about? You a Saints fan? The fuck you talking about? You a Saints fan? You always talking about Atlanta gave you this, Atlanta gave you, and you a Saint. What the fuck you talking about? And I think people don't realize that I was actually in New Orleans before Atlanta, fucking with the team. There's a reason why I'm a Saints fan. People don't know that part of the story. So I think they just think I'm a Saints fan for trolling.
Okay.
But no, so I got my team. Toronto, like that'll be a sad, if we get a fucking NFL. I hope that shit don't happen.
And the entertainment industry, we're moving into the fourth quarter, man. So as the year slowly begins to wind down, where do you see yourself in the next 6 months, and what are some of your goals as the year closes out?
So the goals, like I said, is just like, swallow this whatever shit that I've had inside of like, hating gimmicks and like, you know, all like the shit that makes shit go fast as a rapper, that me on my like, you know, just, I am a authentic, I'm like a genuine human, right? So all this shit that doesn't naturally like come, just fucking getting over that shit and being like, all right, well that is not what I'm trying to, like, I've seen the impact of that and I like for shit to go fast. So now I gotta fucking, you know, do my part. So the work is actually kind of like psychological, right? It's just like, okay, I just need to do this shit, you know? How hard is it to fucking be on Instagram or be on TikTok and just have fun and just find my way of doing it where it don't feel like corny, you know? So that's probably like the biggest to do, which is good in that, like, it ain't real hard. Like I got to do like heavy lifting, you know? And then the other goal, I guess, is just like making the different international waves and the potential that people see, like that, you know, that's one of the things that gets people real excited about me. Just getting those to like connect. It's like, all right, there's this little thing in India that I don't even really know what it is, right? I know that there's, you know, this viral thing that happened and I didn't know what to do with that. And I know that there's a lot of Indian fans, right? But I don't really know, like, I ain't done shows out there, I don't really know, right? I definitely know there's this Dominican thing, and then there's this like, you know, Atlanta thing and making the Atlanta thing, you know, a national thing. So all of these just connecting, so that now it's like, okay, true international superstardom is like, that momentum is there. And now I can just be the artist and just do my part. That's the objective.
Let our audience know how they can check you out via social media, how they can check out some of your work, maybe whether it's YouTube, Spotify, and situations like that.
So on all of them, Day of Shah, DAYOF, Shah, SHAH. And yeah, and on Spotify or whatever, you go in, you just put in Shah, you could put in Shah Telemundo, Shah Just Text, it'll lead you to the Shah. There's mad Shahs out there, so you gotta get to the right one. Obviously, I'm the top. On YouTube, if you're into music videos, you go check out Riding Shoddy with God. That was, when I first started, I was super into music videos, and that's something that I'm getting back to now. So like, all right, even though music videos is not that important, it's something that I enjoy. So now, like, I'm doing all this other shit, like, you know, like I'm putting in the work in, so here's something that satisfies me artistically.
Man, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Hell yeah, my boy.
We're going to damn sure stay in tune with your journey. Have to get in the studio with you and do some in-studio shit.
Hell yeah. You got a birthday coming up.
Yeah.
I heard that. I heard that.
So we're going to get to the fun and festivities, man. I appreciate your time today. Please make sure y'all support and rock with this artist. We'll be back with him again. Once again, Terrell Thomas, These Urban Times. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more.
Hey.